Hello, my name is Wanda Lee Florestine. I'm the author of 50 Years of Assimilation, from the Midwest to the Woke West and all the blackness and whiteness in between. And this book was my dream report to Dr. King, and I'm doing a YouTube reading daily up until the 28th of August this month, in solidarity with the Defend the Vote march that's going to be happening on the 63rd anniversary of the March on the Washington Mall. And so I thought sharing stories is kind of one of the better ways in order for people to understand each other. And so this is one of the ways in which I am participating actively to help bridge the racial gap for whatever it's worth. And so I wanted to read my book because this book was also written to Dr. King, kind of posthumously, obviously, but it was my dream report, quote unquote, dream report of what it was like to inherit his dream of integration, which for me it turned into assimilation, and to just share the journey of those 50 years so that we can, see how we're evolving, see how we're stuck on some destructive patterns, and maybe we can understand deeper, hearing stories from individual Americans. And so today is day 3. So I said a lot about that in the first day of the reading, so there's more there, and then there'll be more to come as I continue to read through the book. So Wanda Lee Florestine, 50 Years of Assimilation. I am on the second section called the seasoning. The first section was called the capture, and this is the seasoning section for the 1970s. I'm kind of going to show you how the section headings work out here. This is the season. There's kind of like a stream of consciousness on the beginning of the section of this that I'm reading tonight. And so it says the seasoning of the 1970s, the Black years. Understanding blackness. Tell them that they are less. Sprinkle in some drugs. Glamorize the dysfunction and close the door on open access. Then mix it all together and call it equality. And it says, say it loud. I'm black and I'm proud. And then, if you're black, get back. If you're brown, stick around. If you're yellow, you're mellow. And if you're white, you're right. Black is beautiful. Black is hip. Yellow is mellow. And white ain't shit. Why you so light-skinned? Oh, go get your black ass away from me. You black mother. Those are all kind of sayings I heard growing up in the 70s that I just kind of shared that with. In each year of each section, I have a illustration of myself done by my brother-in-law to kind of show the hair changes as well. Okay, so the first story in the first letter, in the seasoning section, it is called There Goes the ... White Neighbors. Dear Dr. King, our new place was perfect to break up the closeness of 10 people living in the same house. It was also a 2-family flat, but much bigger. We had an entry with a hall closet, a living room, a kitchen, a dining room, 2 bedrooms, 1 full bathroom on the first floor, and a backyard balcony on the second floor. We used the second floor living room as a bedroom and the dining room as a family room. The boys slept upstairs and the girls slept downstairs. The basement had a big open area, an engine room, complete with water heater, furnace, and incinerator, as well as a laundry room with a laundry chute that started on the second floor. Plus, there was a bathroom with a shower. The basement shower was more of a mystery. I remember only a brief period when it worked, and it seemed the toilet was always in a state of disrepair. As I think about it now, with 6 brothers, everything in our house should have been fully functional, in tip-top shape, and it should have been a place of pride. but there was always something broken or leaking or just plain raggedy. My brothers did not learn carpentry, plumbing, or have any handyman skills, it seemed, until after they moved out. Their collective skills at home were muscle, sports, womanizing, and kicking ass. There was a second gas oven and stove in the basement, but I don't remember my mother ever using it. The kitchen on the top floor was never used as a kitchen either. It served as a storage area with a sink. It had an old electric stove, but no refrigerator. Funny, as much as we needed an extra refrigerator, we never installed another one. However, we did have the traditional Midwestern freezer in the basement, mostly stocked with meat for reserves or the too cold to go outside days. The coolest feature by far to us kids, outside of the basement and the extra rooms and two more bathrooms, was the milk cubby, called the milk chute. It was a square opening about the size of a bread box, cut through to the exterior wall of the house near the side door. It was inlaid with two metal doors, one to open from the outside and one from the inside. The milkman would come once a week to deliver quarts of milk in glass bottles. You would put the empties in the cubby with some money, and he would replace them with fresh milk based on your weekly order. I love this chute. We used to talk. We used to talk. We used it. Excuse me. We used it to talk through when we did not want to open the door. We used it to hide the keys and other items we wanted to throw in to avoid going into the house. And we used it in the winter as a snowball storage room for our snowball fights. We used it to unlock the door once our arms grew too long enough to reach the knob. Excuse me. And we used it to unlock the door once our arms grew long enough to reach the knob. We never had to worry about robbers using it, though. They did not want to deal with all six of my brothers. My second eldest brother, Willie C., had the reputation of the baddest one of all. No one messed with him. He was hit by a city bus on the east side when he was just a teen. The legendary story goes that my mama was in the middle of East Jefferson Avenue holding him, waiting for the ambulance, after she stuffed his brains back into his skull. The stitches left a diagonal Frankenstein scar across his forehead. Ever since then, people were afraid of him because of the appearance of it, and he would beat the shit out of anyone who tried to hurt him or anyone in our family. I guess it was also because he was 6'1" and strong as an ox. I know my mama really missed Daddy. It was different on Pinehurst. She did not drive, and relying on my two eldest brothers hustling around to take her where she needed to go in my daddy's car was exhausting. She did not have her mother and sister at arm's reach anymore either, so I knew it was tough and a bittersweet transition for her. I remember when the song "You Got the Best of My Love" by The Emotions came out. She would pop that 45 on the record player and lay down the replay wand over and over, singing and swaying to every beat. Doesn't take much to make me happy and make me smile with glee. Never ever did I feel discouraged, 'cause our love's no mystery. Demonstrating love and affection that you give so openly, yeah. I like the way you make me feel about you, baby, with the whole wide world to see. Whoa, whoa, you got the best of my love. Whoa, whoa, you got the best of my love. She really missed him, and yes, I know I can't sing. I would see her in quiet moments on bended knee in prayer alongside her bed, head bowed in some kind of despair. Lord knows it was for her sanity and the safety of all of us running all over the entire city, doing God knows what. There was no way she could keep up. She probably felt like the little old lady who lived in a shoe. She used to say a lot, "There's always something to take the joy out of life." I did what I could to add at least a little joy to hers by trying to make good grades and stay out of trouble. But I had my share of family and school fights. I was no angel, but I would cry at the thought of doing something that would put shame on my mama's face. I could I just could not bear that look she would give me. Fortunately, that look was not directed at me more than 3 or 4 times in the 15 years that I had her. But we had enough black family drama for 3 households and 3 mamas. Dr. King, most of the white families had moved away by the time we and other black families got settled in. Families moved in with 3 or 4 kids, cars, color TVs, and most of the mothers and fathers had factory or good government jobs. Some had their own small businesses. Some of them were seeking political offices. These were proud, hard-working families, all gunning for the American dream. Many households had both parents working. My mom and our next-door neighbor, Miss Julia, were the only widows on our block. There were 4 families that were bigger, but not quite as big as ours. The Thorns, the Madisons, the Jacksons, and the Walters, each with 6 kids. The Madisons had 4 boys and 2 girls. The Jacksons, Walters, and the Thorns were split down the middle. My family was friends with all of them. However, Jesse and Carol were my buds from the Jacksons. Sylvia from the Walters and Ellen was my bud from the Madisons. I was the eldest, but only by a few months. My younger brother Douglas often played with my friends and other boys in the neighborhood. But my brother that was right over me, Ron, hated it when I tried to hang out with him. So he would run to be with his friends as far as he could to get away from me. Even though some of those friends were the older brothers of Jesse, Carol, Sylvia, and Ellen. Our block had 15 houses and no 2 were exactly alike. These were white middle-class homes. These homes were not quickly put together to accommodate a large population swell of factory workers. These homes were planned and built one at a time, with a church and school as the underpinning. There were floor plans with design incorporated. You had to walk around to get from room to room versus walking straight through. There were framed wooden doors with glass doorknobs, crown molding, and built-ins, and fireplaces brandishing carved oak mantels. We had leaded pane windows. There were light fixtures, sconces, and textured ceilings. They had style and substance. All were 2-story, many were brick. Some had aluminum siding, and many had a 2-car garage behind that matched. But all of them had porches, front and back, and side doors. And again, we even had a small balcony behind the upstairs bedroom. I especially loved my other good friend Kim's house. Her mom, Laura, had exquisite taste from what I could tell. Not only was her house decorated the prettiest in the neighborhood, but it also had to be the cleanest. She did not play when it came to cleanliness, and she had her kids trained properly. Kimberly had to get on her knees to scrub the toilets. Her mom had the routine down, and all 5 of those kids would not dare piss her off by not doing it when she said and the way she said it. Laura should have started a maid service or a decorator service, no doubt, because nobody could do it the way she did. She could have trained an army of workers and seriously got paid. Their kitchen was the best kitchen in the neighborhood, too. It was wide with the stove and refrigerator on one side and the sink and all the other cabinets on the other. It had a cool breakfast nook with a built-in bench and pedestal table. The sink was farmhouse styled, white and deeper than ours and most of the other families. It faced the driveway where her sons played a lot. It was cool too, because her house was the only one that I remember where the kitchen could be accessed from both the side door and the back door. Their downstairs bathroom was nestled between the kitchen and the den. Most of the other homes had it between 2 bedrooms. I loved sitting in the nook in that 50s style soda fountain table, pretending I was part of their family having dinner. Plus, she could cook her butt off. I can still taste her collard greens today. Everybody did not always get along, but it was superbly functional, and I love that family. I learned so much from Laura. There was a Catholic church, St. Francis de Sales. It occupied most of the block, a fortress with manicured patches of lawns, hedges, concrete walkways, and wisps of lots that beckoned play and adventure. The crimson brick buildings were strong and stern with grand doors, a tall steeple, and a bell tower. There was an office and rectory surrounding the corner of my street. The first building after it was the 3-story private elementary school. Behind it were a gymnasium and a huge parking lot with basketball hoops and a baseball diamond in the north corner. All of it was enclosed with a chain link fence, and there was the chapel and the convent across the street from our house. The chapel had a 7-foot alabaster beveled cross, flanked by stained glass windows. That cross commanded holiness. If you stared at it long enough in heavy rain and thunderstorm, you if you stared at it long enough, in a heavy rainstorm and thunderstorm, you could see Jesus hanging there weeping. It felt like he was right there watching us. We quickly learned to use St. Francis as our play area. Outside of hooping it up on the basketball court, we used the front lawn of the school as our baseball field. Each summer, our consistent play wore down the grass until we had a diamond. We used the fences and the trees as a relay and obstacle course field when we got tired of baseball. Then there was the balcony of the chapel, the 3-foot deep corrugated steel window wells, the shrubs, and the grounds around the chapel as our hide-and-seek depot. The boys had figured out how to climb to the roof of the rectory. They would run from one end to the other, throwing pebbles and water balloons, causing any havoc they could. It was their lookout tower to watch the girls. They did not allow the girls to come up there, but we tried to when they were not around. Rarely did our family or the neighbors use the church as a place of worship. The white families that attended regularly would drive in and out, and you would not see them again until the following Sunday. It was like whitecaps coming into shore. They would come and disappear inside the buildings, then roll back out and fade away. Not long after, they stopped coming altogether. We assumed they had found suburban church homes nearer their new neighborhoods. Father Cunningham and the nuns started making their rounds to introduce themselves and the church to the new Negro families, presumably when the tithes and the offerings began to shrink measurably. But the new Negro families had all moved in with their own religions intact: Baptists, Lutherans, Muslims, and Methodists. We were Methodists. We never took the time to learn the tenets of the Catholic religion. The church bells were reverent, but those Latin verses and Stoic hymnals were not rapturous enough to replace the resonance of gospel music. It just did not call us in. My mama said that we were Southern Methodists and that we did not belong in a Catholic church, and that was pretty much that. We did attend an occasional Easter service when she didn't want to take all of us on the bus, all the way to the east side to attend the Church of Messiah. She figured it was easier and there was no way we were getting out of church on Easter. Every black family disappeared to their own separate church homes on Sunday mornings. We played together but did not pray together. If we did all attend the same neighborhood church, and if the kids got into a fight, then normally everybody would know. Of course, the preacher might find out, and nobody wanted to have the sermon directed at him or her. We did not have to fear a public come to Jesus confessional and forgiveness altar call to keep us in check. So if you did fight and the parents did not resolve it, there was also no moral authority to publicly shame us. That meant the kids got away with a lot. The Lyles were the only black family I can remember that attended St. Francis regularly. The rest of us went only to special events or classes hosted by the church as part of their mission. We visited for vacation Bible school, summer arts programs, cooking classes, etiquette classes, and basketball tournaments. With the exception of basketball, all of these programs were informative and you learned something new and interesting. But it felt like we learned more about how white people live than about the love of God. We were grateful for the outreach and the new things we learned that we liked, but because they were so different and white, we were cautiously and culturally inaccessible. We were not going to convert to Catholicism, and they were not coming over for dinner. I loved it when my mama would take a break from us and get dressed up for church or some ladies' event. She'd soak in the tub with her Avon Skin So Soft or Calgon, always calling me in to scrub her back. She had the silkiest skin. Then she would start her makeup by applying a thin layer of Noxzema, rubbing it in good as a base, then Florrie Roberts Powder Foundation, one of the only two cosmetic companies that made makeup for black hues. She would be careful not to disturb the Noxzema to get that satiny, unblemished doll baby face. She would do a light green, pale blue, or white eyeshadow and apply rosy rouge in a circle on her cheeks. The eyelashes would be glued on, and then she would do crimson lipstick to accent her perfectly full, cushiony lips. Red was her favorite color. I would have to polish her beautiful, elongated finger and toenails. She just had the most perfect hands and toes. It was always a production, ending with someone zipping up her dress that she wore over a girdle, which had an opening for going to the ladies' room. Her stockings would be snapped at the thigh. We always laughed about the flesh tone stockings that were always too light for brown legs, but we wore them to fit in. At least we had Afro sheen. But wigs would be what would top it all off. My mama's hair was very thin and super soft, so it never held a style. She wore wigs a lot. She would catch the bus or the jitney, whichever was the most convenient, and would not come home for hours, usually carrying two big tote bags. We would see her walking down the street and run to help her carry them. It was usually one from Kresge's department store with a smaller Woolworths bag in it and one from Sanders Bakery. There would be something new to wear for us younger kids in the Kresge's bag, and that famous caramel cake from Sanders was to die for. I never knew what was in the Woolworths bags. My mom was the best cook. Everyone always said that Florestine could burn. She could even make her rice taste gourmet, but it didn't matter how many times per week we ate it. Monday, what's for dinner, Mama? Chicken, rice, and gravy. Tuesday, what's for dinner, Mama? Rice, gravy, and chicken. Wednesday, what's for dinner, Mama? Gravy, chicken, and rice. Dr. King, there wasn't anything a person didn't love that came out of our kitchen, touched by her hands. I'd like to think the phrase, you put your thumb in it, which meant it was exceptional, was created in reference to her. I always smelled onions on her hands when she combed my fro. Her desserts were just as good. Her homemade sweet potato pies, cinnamon rolls, apple turnovers, rice pudding, and pound cakes were wanted by everybody. She would sell some on occasion, but she never tried to replicate that Sanders caramel cake. There was just no substitute. Downtown was where we had to go to get it. For shopping, we usually went to Greenfield and Grand River. The best was going downtown, especially for the holidays, and the Christmas displays at J.L. Hudson's, because you knew on those occasions Sanders would also be visited. There was one corner store across the church office that sold convenience goods and prescription drugs, plus fresh fruit in the summer. A Jewish family, the richest, owned it. Mr. Rich was the pharmacist. They had two sons, Stephen and Larry, who played with us from time to time when they had to help out in the store. They were a bit older than me and spent more time with my older brothers, Tony and Ron. What I remember about the family, Mrs. Rich, Mr. Rich's gentleness with us. I don't think he ever raised his voice while we were playing around behind the store. And Mrs. Rich's silent demeanor and her super long, down to her butt black hair and the silver ragtop Corvette convertible they owned. I also remember Stephen's unicycle and Larry's kinky curly hair, or vice versa. The other thing is that they hired a black female clerk to work the register in front. For the first time, it registered to me that white folks would hire blacks to handle their money. It did not occur to me that my father's employer was also mostly was most likely was also most likely white. Sorry. Mr. Rich would extend credit to my mama by allowing us to get milk, Wonder Bread, bologna, Miracle Whip, Lay's potato chips, and Faygo Pop when we ran out of money before the end of the month. He would do it privately, he himself shopping from her list, written in cursive, usually on a ripped piece of brown paper bag stained by cooking oil or hair grease from the hot comb. He would fill the bag, ring it all up, and hand us the bag away from the register so that we would not feel bad if others didn't see an exchange of money. Thank you, Mr. Rich. I think there was always a silent love for you and your family by ours. We liked our neighborhood, and it served us for a brief time that we were there. The remaining two white families, I'm sure, felt abandoned. I only remember that one family was blondes and the others brunettes. They never played with us and used to stare out of their windows like we were in a fishbowl or zoo and they were the visitors. They finally moved away a year or so later. One of my last remembered interactions with white people on our street was the insurance man. He sold my mother and probably most of the neighbors bogus, underfunded, overcharged insurance policies, taking full advantage of our inexperience with business and underwriting policies that pretty much just covered funeral costs. Something else black people had to learn the hard way. The other was this swimmobile guy. For about 2 or 3 summers, the city created a program to take swimming to the neighborhoods that did not have access to public pools. Or maybe it was really a way to keep us from going to the suburbs to swim. I don't know what the politics were, but Mayor Coleman Young, Detroit's first black mayor, was doing a lot of out-of-the-box thinking. The swimmobiles were galvanized steel tubs about 12 or 15 feet long, mounted on the chassis of an 18-wheeler. When it came to your block, cones and construction ponies would block the traffic. The driver had both a trucker's license and a lifeguard certification, apparently. He would park the truck near the fire hydrant, unscrew the cap with the assistance of the fire department, tie on the hose, and fill the pool up with water. Something like a fire escape ladder came down for us to climb. There was also a protruding narrow catwalk with the guardrail that ran the length of the pool. The depth was 3 feet on the back of the truck to 5 feet at the opposite end near the cabin. The driver would go into the cabin clothed and come out on the passenger side like Superman wearing a Speedo. He perched himself atop the cabin in a rickety metal and nylon cross-latched folding chair and let the kids climb in. He'd finger paint a hunk of zinc on his nose and shoulders, throw on his mirrored sunglasses, and let us have at it. Breaking all the crowd capacity rules. We were like a school of black goldfish in a giant tank bobbing up to the surface for feeding time. It felt like a private pool party because it was on our block. But kids from all of the surrounding blocks would run over and climb in too. And we could not stop them. There was no room to actually swim. We would climb in and splash and bob, waving our arms and yelling over to our parents sitting on the porches that we were swimming. I guess we thought they had x-ray vision like Superman, watching us through the steel. The moment you tried to swim, you would get pushed or banged by someone's butt or knee. The boys quickly learned that it was a good time to cop a feel and have their frisky ways with the bikini-clad girls who did not fight back. I was too young and flat for that. Plus, I was the baby girl in the Lee clan. I did not have anything to worry about. Willie C. and the rest of my brothers were never too far away, and every boy in the neighborhood knew it. The swimmobile was a fun novelty, but it was just as silly as it was new. We lived just 4 blocks from a huge park that had a very large community pool and an ice skating rink in it, Butso Field. We were not necessarily the intended underprivileged recipients, but we enjoyed it. The best part was getting knocked down by the force of water gushing out of the drainage hole when it was time to empty it. We would push and cut in line. Those boys discovered another opportunity with the bikini girls. They would run up behind a girl, one would grab her wrist, the other would grab her ankles, and they'd carry her to the front of the flow just long enough for the water to rip off her top, and then drop her on the ground and run. Our parents would just laugh because after the first time, everyone knew what would happen. But some of the parents did not like the water flow at all. Many of them were from the South, and it evoked very fluid memories of a very painful and recent past. Next letter in the section called The Seasoning. It is entitled, No I in Black. Dear Dr. King,